Imagine this: a 4-year-old boy, his eyes wide with the innocent certainty of childhood, looks up at his mother and says he needs to go to Hollywood, not to visit some theme park, but to find his other family. It's the kind of request that seems innocent at first, almost whimsical, but something in the way he says it stops you cold. That's exactly what happened to one mother in Oklahoma. Her son, Ryan, spoke with an eerie conviction about a life that seemed far beyond anything he could have ever known. A life filled with bright lights, movie stars, and memories that didn't belong to him. The strangest part? This was only the beginning. As Ryan's story unfolded, it became clear that the truth was far more extraordinary than anyone could have imagined. Stay with us until the end, because the evidence that Ryan provided will challenge everything you think you know. Ryan Hammonds was an ordinary child, energetic, curious, and imaginative, but there was something about the way he played that set him apart. Ryan didn't play games where he pretended to be a cowboy or an astronaut. Instead, he directed scene. He would shout, "Action!" and cut with the authority of someone who had done it all before. At first, his parents thought it was endearing, a little boy pretending to be a director. But over time, it became clear that this wasn't just play. The more Ryan talked, the more his parents began to sense an otherworldliness lurking beneath his innocent game. Ryan spoke often of a life that seemed all too real. He would talk about Hollywood with the familiarity of someone who had walked its streets, naming places and describing people that no 4-year-old from Oklahoma should have known. He insisted that he used to be someone else, someone who lived a very different kind of life. He described owning a green car that he loved, but that no one else was allowed to drive. He spoke of voyages across the ocean to Paris, recalling with startling clarity the sight of the Eiffel Tower, a place he had never seen except in his own mind. And perhaps most unsettling of all, he spoke of a grand house, a house with a swimming pool, a life of luxury that seemed impossibly distant from his small town in Oklahoma. The more he spoke, the more his parents grew uneasy. These weren't just childish fantasies. Ryan's descriptions were specific, rich with details that felt almost too vivid. He talked about people as if he knew them intimately, about places as though he had been there himself. It wasn't the way a child talks about something they'd seen on TV. It was the way someone talks about a memory they can't forget, no matter how hard they try. And then came the nightmares. Night after night, Ryan would wake up screaming, clutching his chest as if he were in pain. He would tell his parents that in his dreams, his heart had exploded in Hollywood. It was as if he were reliving a trauma that had followed him across lifetimes. His parents tried to comfort him, but the fear in his eyes was unmistakable, something beyond the scope of a mere bad dream. It was raw, real, and impossible to dismiss. The more Ryan talked, the more his parents found themselves questioning the reality they lived in. Could it be possible that their son was remembering a past life? The thought seemed absurd, even terrifying. But the intensity of Ryan's memories, the conviction in his voice, left them with more questions than answers, and those questions would only grow darker. Reincarnation is an idea that many dismiss, a relic of ancient cultures perhaps, or the subject of ghost stories told by firelight. But researchers have found that children under the age of 6 sometimes speak of lives they couldn't possibly have lived. They recall faces, names, and moments from a world that doesn't belong to them, often with a clarity that fades as they grow older. Their minds, still untouched by the skepticism of adulthood, seem somehow more open to whatever memories lie beyond the veil. And Ryan, it seemed, was one of those children. There have been other cases like Ryan's. In India, a young boy spoke of a life in a neighboring village, providing names, places, and events that matched the life of a man who had died years before. Researchers investigating the case found the details chillingly accurate, as if the boy was recounting something that had happened to him. Was Ryan's story one of those rare instances where the past refuses to stay buried? Ryan's pleas to visit Hollywood grew more desperate. It was as though he needed to find something, to prove something, not only to his parents, but to himself. His mother, caught between disbelief and fear, took him to the local library. They scoured old books on Hollywood, hoping perhaps to satisfy whatever restless energy had taken hold of her son. And then, one day, As they flipped through the pages of a dusty book, Ryan's hand froze. He pointed to a black and white still from a 1932 movie called Night After Night and said, with the certainty of someone pointing to their own reflection, "That's me." His mother felt a chill run down her spine. There was no hesitation in Ryan's voice, no hint of make-believe. The conviction, the eerie familiarity, it was undeniable. This wasn't just a child's imagination at play. There was something deeper, something that defied explanation. Ryan's mother, desperate for answers, reached out to Dr. Jim Tucker at the University of Virginia. Dr. Tucker had spent years researching children who claimed to remember past lives, and when he met Ryan, he was immediately struck by the boy's vivid recollections. Dr. Tucker began to verify Ryan's claims, and the results were unsettling. Many of Ryan's statements matched the life of Marty Martin, a man who had lived in Hollywood, a man who had been born Morris Kalinsky, moved to New York to dance on stage, and eventually made his way to Hollywood to become a talent agent, a man who had lived in a grand house, owned a green car, and managed the careers of stars like Glenn Ford. The more Dr. Tucker uncovered, the deeper the mystery grew. He arranged for Ryan to meet Marty Martin's biological daughter, a meeting that felt like something out of a ghost story. The air was thick with tension as Ryan came face to face with a woman who had known Marty in a way that no one else could. Ryan, usually so confident, hid behind his mother, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. But as they spoke, Marty's daughter began to confirm the impossible. The details Ryan had provided were true. The green car, the trips to Paris, the family secrets, things that Ryan could never have known. The meeting left everyone shaken, as if they had glimpsed a shadow of something beyond comprehension. After that day, it seemed that something shifted in Ryan. The restless memories that had haunted him began to fade, as if the encounter had given him the closure he had been yearning for. The nightmares grew less frequent, and the desperate pleas to return to Hollywood stopped altogether. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, Ryan's story makes you question just how much we truly understand about life, death, and the mysteries that lie in between. Is it possible for the past to reach out and touch the present, to leave an imprint on a child too young to know its secrets? Or is there something else at work here, something we may never fully comprehend?